Hi, everyone. This is Meet the Pros. I am Katie at Ecamm Network. I'm really excited to be broadcasting today and to introduce you to our guest. Raf Esparza is a broadcaster with experience in mixed martial arts and late night comedy. And we're really excited to get to talk with him today about how he uses Ecamm Live, how long he's been broadcasting for, and all sorts of other great questions. So without further ado, let me bring him on. Hey, Raf, thanks so much for taking the time to join us.
Hello, good morning and good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, we're really excited for you to be here. So let's just jump right in. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your business, what you do, where you're located, every detail.
Of course. So a little me. I'm out here in Los Angeles, and so longest time I was one of the few guys who would do and late night comedy. I worked for The Tonight Show for both Jay and Conan.
Wow.
So that was a lot. Because, there was during that late night wars when they were switching seats, and I was in a position of insignificance. So it wasn't like I was screwing anything up. At least I don't think so. But then after that, I really found this passion for doing mixed martial arts. I practiced Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And one of the things about this sport is that's really, really unique to, I think, a number of other sports is that you get the opportunity to actually train with the Michael Jordans of our sport.
Wow.
They're usually very accessible. These legends have their own gyms that you can drop in on and you can go around and take classes from. So I found this niche and this void where they didn't really have a broadcaster. So since then, I've kind of combined what I've learned as a late night talk show host and sort of brought that into the slowly developing world of grappling as it's beginning to get more notoriety. And, there's starting to be more broadcasters and streaming services for the sport and art.
Awesome. And so how often do you do live video? How often do you broadcast?
Oh, man. Okay. A lot. So you always get that fear of like, am I doing this too much? Because I have different interests. I do a traditional audio podcast called Verbal Tap.
Uh-huh.
And we expanded that to where I would go do event coverage. And I really wanted to make it so that when these athletes who oftentimes they don't have like a media strategy or they don't have press conferences before or after. So it'd usually just be me going up to them and saying, hello, do you want to talk? And then going like, geez, yeah. And I think that what we do in our sport is so hard. And to go unrecognized, it would break my heart. So I started expanding. And as a result of that, I found this vested interest in being like, I want to go up. So I have a weekly Grappling Hour.
Uh-huh. It's
a weekly show with Verbal Tap. But if I'm going out and covering events, sometimes I'm multiplying the interviews the week of. So at the very least, I'm using my Ecamm about once or twice a week.
That's awesome. And when you're using Ecamm, do you do any kind of demos or do you broadcast from live events as well? Or is it mostly interviews and commentary back and forth?
It really is a lot of interviews, I would say. So here's why I was so thrilled you guys existed. Because years ago when I was doing this late night talk show, when you work for Jay and you're writing jokes for him, mine was to fill in for the area for the guys who are daily staff writers.
Sure.
Where they just are like, listen, I can't write another Kim Kardashian joke. I can't. I have no more. Yeah, so my job was to fill in the little cracks and be like, I've got a Kim Kardashian joke. And you fill it in and you get jokes that go on the air. And I was very fortunate to get a number of jokes on the air. But there were all these jokes that I was writing that just didn't go to use.
Sure.
And as a result of that, I started creating this late night talk show where I'd bring in other people from different shows or other comics who I knew. And I remember thinking at the time, this is 2012 when it started, I remember thinking, live is the future.
Yeah,
I really wanted to do a live show because they would give you this disc for my show full of mock jokes that have the shelf life of a McDonald's value meal. But they'd give it to me a month later and they'd say, okay, cool, they're your jokes. And I go,
These are
these
irrelevant.
people aren't even in the news anymore. So I remember pitching it to these people at this comedy club that I worked at, and I said, I really want to go live. I'd love to do it. And I think at the time the main streaming service was just Google doing their Hangouts.
Yeah.
And I said, the technology's not quite where I'd be. In my vision, I imagine a variety show. I imagine commercials. I imagine remotes. I imagine multiple guests on sort of a thing. And I just remembered sitting there and being so frustrated that this technology didn't exist, at least for the prosumer level.
Yeah.
I know that people who have amazing technology and know how to do certain codes, they haven't used to them. And I remembered somebody was telling me, they're like, hey, man, I really miss your show. I really wish we could go to early late night. And I was like, yeah, if only there was some way I could stream live where I could do remotes and put overlays. Oh, my God, what's Ecamm? Are you serious? I just Googled this, and it exists now.
That's awesome. So then my next question then would have to be, what's your favorite feature and why? What do you love about it?
Okay, I got a few. But I really think the one that has changed my life profusely is the ability to put on video in a very super easy way to do. Just like a click and drag and drop is so great.
Yeah,
and I'm a big planner, and I love to create scenes and have full jumps per interview. But this helps me for two reasons. The first of which is I can actually take a break if I'm doing live interviews, because half the time there's no other producer. It's me. So, when I'm clicking between scenes, it's me producing it and running the show. But people will ask, they're like, what if you get hungry, or what if you need to go do something? And I'm like, no, I'm just on air. There's not much I can do. So the ability to actually put on things that you've pre-recorded or videos that you have and be able to time that as part of your show is really, really huge. But the second part about why the videos are so great is, and this is something that nobody else does, so you're always looking for those things that give you an edge that nobody else really can or will do.
Sure.
But while other hosts will do interviews, nobody else does a breakdown with the athletes via Skype call in my business.
Oh, cool.
So what I can do is I can share a screen and show them the same video that I'm watching and have them in a little corner walk me through what they were doing in their matches in the form of mixed martial arts or grappling, and say, hey, that was a really cool spin. Can we do that? And I can actually stop and move accordingly to it, which I swear, even when I wanted the technology to exist for a late night talk show, I didn't need it then like that. But now that I have these athletes and they want to talk about stuff and they're looking to expand their brands, it's such a huge win for me and them.
That's so amazing. Yeah, I'm sure that it's really helpful for people to be able to see a visual, especially as they're sort of learning and really being active enthusiasts for the sport.
It's difficult because we live in a place where people want to know how the magic trick works.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times a lot of them are students of the sport. Mm-hmm. So they have a big vested interest in knowing, like, well, how'd you do that?
Yeah, for
and
sure.
And if you did do that, where was your hand? And so what I try to do is, if you're doing an interview with these people, any of the athletes, about 2 or 3 days afterwards, and they describe it but they can't see it, it's a little bit different. So, the nice part about it is when somebody has a great connection, you can do these things. It's still a little bit of a new technology, but it is the difference maker between, say, me and somebody who just is starting it without either this Ecamm or whatever. And honestly, Ecamm came into our lives because when we were doing Verbal Tap, my co-host would record his side and my side using Soundflower.
Oh, wow.
And he was out in Denver, and I, just as a precaution, because I'm a worrywart, I found the Ecamm call recorder, and I said, man, this is a really affordable version of a backup safety net.
Yeah, definitely.
And he didn't listen to me for 2 years.
You had to
he just
him.
No, he just listen to me. And I said, okay, well, dude, I've got the backup. And he would be like, oh, we lost our audio. I was like, no, we didn't. I have it right. I have both yours and mine and the
Yeah.
guests. And he's like, ah. And then one day, I think his Soundflower just, it crashed. It was killed. It was destroyed. And I remembered being like, oh, would you like to talk about Ecamm's call recorder? And he goes, yeah, sure. And he heard the quality that it was for both mine and his sides, and it immediately changed the way that we did the show. So now he's a huge believer. He's like, oh, I love my Ecamm call recorder. It's so easy to use and user-friendly. And I was like, where were you years ago, dude?
Hey, you won him over. That's great. So was it then the move from call recorder into Ecamm Live to add in that video side? Is that how you got into Ecamm Live originally?
Yeah, so that was the whole thing. Is I kept saying, like, I would tell people, like, I really, really wish this would make itself available just so that I could use it as a tool. Because I was using OBS.
Sure.
And OBS was not really reliable for me. I had a lot of really awkward drags, and I was using PC because, again, part of what keeps me different is I go to train with these people, so sometimes I have to be mobile.
Yeah.
And
you need that reliability.
You do, and when I would set up the OBS system, I would do a good job of saying, like, okay, here's my overlays, here's my cut systems, and I would try to do those little nice nifty tricks of me talking with the athletes. I had several things where it was happening live, and it goes, yes, that's not going to work? Okay. That's fun. Hey, stick around, everybody. No big deal. We're going to work through this. And my audience would just be like, yeah, I'm leaving. And I go, please don't leave. So this made it so it was a click and drag and drop. And I've had a couple use just that were small, but in the grand scheme of things, like the fact that it's so easy to repair, I was able to kind of understand the beast. So when I didn't know what was happening, say to Ecamm, there's a nice little community of people that are in a Facebook group that it's such a nice safety net to know, like, if something's going wrong, I can put it to them and they'll chat and help you. So real double bind, especially for a person who used to back up the audio recording when I wasn't the engineer. It's like the minute I saw that you guys had all these little things, I said, oh, this could actually be very, very, very helpful for me. So that's when I started making the transition. Was I saw randomly one day that you guys had made a service, and it took me no more than 20 seconds to buy it.
So happy to hear that, and so happy to hear that you love using it. That makes a big difference in your broadcasts. That's huge for us, and definitely, I think being able to watch the questions and the comments and the support that comes out of our community group is really exciting for us to see.
Yes,
we learn so much from sort of the different questions and the ways that you all are helping each other out. It makes our jobs certainly a lot easier, especially as Ken and Glenn are working to do updates and new features.
Well, they're the ones who are also commenting in the group.
Yeah, definitely.
And so, like, sometimes I always feel like we just complain into the void with the number of fours. And, sometimes I'm like, hey, admin, fix my color screen. And then they're just like, give me a screenshot and send me your diagnostics about your screen. And I go, wait, who is that?
Yeah.
Is that the Wizard of Oz? Like, what's happening here?
No, they're definitely watching and listening and often are on to help out, which is huge. But I'm always even impressed by just users who have been on and using the tool for a long time are often really happy to help support new users that come on too, which is just hugely helpful. And often the answers that they give are things that we haven't yet tried, or tips and tricks that they've learned just after years of using the tool, which is always really exciting to see. All right, so tell me about your best live video experience and what was so exciting about it, or what you learned from it.
I feel, one of the things, again, that we do, or at least that I try to do, is when I notice people aren't as good at something, or I have my thing that makes me unique, I really try to hone in on that.
Sure.
And one of the things I particularly love about the software, especially with the integration of comments, is when you do and you have hecklers.
Oh, yeah.
The dumbest thing that you can ever do is heckle somebody with a microphone because you have the last word always.
Yep.
So there's a whole beauty of when we make memes for our podcast that are jokes, and you get some smart Alex in the comment section who think they're funny.
Sure.
You're like, no, I'm actually funny. You're not. So now I'm going to get to talk about you, and it's a great discussion point. So this whole element of integrating live comments is something that I love doing when I'm interviewing my guests, because I feel that I'm a good interviewer. Like, I feel like the strength is always in your backup questions or your secondary questions. Like, active listening is huge to me. I used to do speech and debate, and when you would do those events on a national level for competition, it was the difference maker between someone who could feel the room and somebody who was just performing. Mm-hmm. So you can get up there and do a good performance, but feeling that room makes you stand out. So it was like taking that to comedy and then realizing, okay, now there's a digital audience, and you will have hecklers, and you will have people who are wanting to get their questions asked. So that element of creating something that's like a FOMO, where you don't want to miss out, you want people to be a part of the conversation. Given those things, I actually ended up creating a little bit of what we call the telethon, if you would.
Oh, cool.
But there are these major events that they do. Now, it's not a telethon like we're raising money. I'm just saying it felt like a Jerry Lewis telethon because there's kind of like this Olympics of jiu-jitsu that happens every 2 years, and you have to qualify for it. It's huge. It's international. Everybody sends their representatives. And it's a huge honor to the community. And I remembered one year I said, you know what I do? I'm going to do a live stream to just be like a communion piece to that broadcast.
Yeah.
So it's behind a paywall. I can't show you any of that, but you can watch us. And it's going to have a delay, but I like the ability for my audience to think that they're 2 steps ahead at any given time.
Oh, yeah.
I find that. I feel like you can mine comedy if your audience feels like they're smarter than you.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's one of the things that I've learned to say Johnny Carson, which is you give into the idea that other people will then be welcoming you on the joke that you've already set up about 40 seconds before them. So it's a wonderful structure, but it's because I was like, hey, I don't care if they know you when the match goes. What they're going to laugh at is the joke that we all witnessed together that maybe they didn't think of. And so as a result of that, you can play with the structure. So we did a live stream for 2 days.
Wow.
I want to say it was about 8 hours on both days. And
it was a marathon.
It was a marathon. And people were like, how are you going to exist on for that long? And I just said, I'm going to have, we're going to make it an event. And so my variety shows allowed me to bring in guests to come in and do there we go. Allowed guests to come back in and do interviews, but then we also provided like exit matches, which is insane because you were coming to us for the commentary about grappling event, and then you got more grappling at my event. Like, it was like I just dared people, like, you probably want more grappling, right? Because you're sitting there watching it, so why not take these free matches?
Yeah.
And just the respect that you get from the community on being able to do that sort of a thing and create something fun and different, I felt was of what I like, aptitude or test of everything that you kind of acclimate as a host and as a commentator.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's becoming a lot more, that style is becoming a lot more popular in the live video space in particular, and even branching out into the world of television as well, where people are gathering sort of in this community around a shared experience, be it a popular TV show or a live event, etc., and being able to have sort of that expert commentary has become sort of this popular live video style in itself. So that's neat that you're at the sort of the beginning of that.
Well, I like to, for me, it's not just create a show, but creating the best show is always the goal. And it's one of the difficulties I face, which is, again, the sport is new. We're not on regular ESPN. That's kind of a dream for me, is to us to have that ability to be the week of a major grappling event talking about it in the same way you would about Tom Brady for 12 weeks
Yeah.
for a Super Bowl. It's like, I don't really care. I love football. It's fine. It's just at a certain point I'm like, well, it looks like Tom Brady is a very good athlete, but we've got to wait 5 months to see that happen where he wins the big thing.
Yeah.
But for us, I can't get you guys 30 minutes to talk about this one match that's coming up that has so many implications and is so huge. And so as a result of that, it's like my thing is always, and again, this is why I do love the software, is if people are going to go somewhere new, you have to show them proof of concept.
Yep.
So to me, that's what this is. This is a technology that provides me a tool that says, I'm trying to take you somewhere new. It's not going to be easy. A lot of the athletes are always astounded when I'm like, could you have a Skype? And they go, well, I don't have a Skype. I don't remember my password.
Yeah.
And I go, well, find it. I tell them, I'm like, if somebody from ESPN, like an Ariel Helwani, called you right this second and said interview with me, this would not be a discussion.
Yeah.
I'm giving you the media training that helps you go to the next level, but you have to also be a willing participant in that. So it takes a second just in the mindset of telling them, like, no, we can have it good.
Yeah.
We can be those people, but you have to come with me and trust me. So a lot of what we're building on my shows are an element of trust, and believe me, when you come on, I'm going to give you an interview that nobody else does.
Yeah. How do you overcome some of, both with yourself and as you're bringing guests on who may not be as familiar with being on video or on live video? How do you get past sort of that intimidation factor and that get to that level of confidence where people feel, excited and ready to be on film? I know it's a huge common question when people are first considering going live or making a purchase of a live video software.
Absolutely.
Is that like that, oh, what do I say? How do I practice? How do I get started? And I'm happy to hear what sort of how you overcome that, especially since you're bringing people on often to interview.
I just insult them. I start with pretty easy insult. I tell people this, and I feel like it's a good way to let them know that you don't take yourself too seriously. And I tell them, I'm like, this is a comedy show. The whole point is to have fun. So be light. Know that I'm going to walk you through this. And the weird part about it is when you go to these classes with these people, you are, and it's the most extreme version of it, but these people could kill you if they wanted to. In a sport where if you feel that you've been bested, you're supposed to tap out or verbally say that, I give up.
Yeah.
And so there's an element of trust there. So a very familiar sort of thing that I tell them is trust me on the microphone like I trust you on the mats.
Oh, cool.
And know that there's a similarity in this one thing is just in the same way you can kill me on the mats, I can kill you on the microphone. So really have fun, but don't be, a dick. I don't know if we can swear or use profane language, but I just tell people don't be a dick and just be nice. And you're going to find that even if we're playfully playing with each other and saying jokes back and forth, it's going to come across so easy. So I usually try to find like one or two jokes that I think are a good way of opening up. And I believe one of the things that I try to do a lot is I try to ask the question that most audience members wish they could ask the guest.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I've asked guests who they're questionably on steroids. On a scale of 1 to 10, how many steroids are you on? 10 being the most. I've asked, what's wrong with your face when they have a black eye? Like things that I just feel set the interview tone.
Yeah, definitely.
And sometimes you can intimidate the guest because you might be playing up to their extreme subconscious or their insecurities. Yeah. But the nice part is that I let them know there are certain things that make us very, very similar. So I try to find that little Venn diagram inner splice where I say, no, I actually do that too. I think you don't know that, but I do that when I'm training all the time. And you really just try to find a sense of humanity and commonality. And when you find that, You really harness and you say, listen, what I'm doing before we start, and it's very similar to something that happens on this show even, is that you do what's called a pre-interview. Mm-hmm. And I really wish more people knew about this, but when you go on talk shows, most guests are pre-screened by producers.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And what happens is these producers usually go over about 30 different questions that they then will ask maybe 7 during a 7-minute segment. So when you get Jay Leno, who's interviewing somebody, is like, oh, yeah, so you like cars, huh? That's been very well vetted, and there's just like, Jay, why would you ask me about cars? Oh, my God. You're a car guy, Jay. Man, my car broke down the other day. So what I do is an accelerated version of that, which is I've already done the research myself, so there's no tell them to tell me. Mm-hmm. It's me listening to them on other shows or watching their social media or taking down mental notes. And in the 3 minutes before we go on air, I usually spend time going, hey, don't worry about this. Don't worry about this. Hey, is there anything I can help you promote? And then they usually start spilling their guts. It's like, oh, yeah, I've got a seminar in 2 weeks. And then you realize, like, okay, that's important to them.
Yeah.
And then I ask my questions, which is, hey, can I ask you about this? Because I'm a big believer I don't like publicist interference, especially something in late night comedy where it'd be like, ooh, I'm not talking about that. Ooh, you're not coming on my show then. Like, the reason people want to talk to you is about X or Y or Z. So, for me, it's just make them feel at ease, make them feel comfortable from the get-go, and then the nicest part is the way I said, like, in jiu-jitsu, you're kind of setting up like chess pieces. So you're not just working submission that's one move ahead. A good black belt is usually like 20 moves ahead of you. Yeah. And you may not know it, but you may go into checkmate very, very quickly and go, how did that happen? Did that happen right now? And the black belt's like, that happened minutes ago, dude. But for me, I try to do that with little comedy pieces. So I may have an idea of where I want the joke to end for them, and it's a matter of playing like a game of charades with your friend and being like, ooh, okay. And they're like, oh, yeah, I did do that. And they land the joke. And once they land their first joke, well, let me tell you something I've never told anybody else. And you go, oh, well, there we go.
Just nailed the exclusive. I love it.
You try.
Yeah, definitely. All right. I think I've asked most of my questions. The one lingering one is a little bit of conversation around what channels you use where you broadcast to and what levels of effectiveness have you found being on different channels. I know Facebook's a huge one for most of our Ecamm Live users, but interested to hear if there's any others where it's worked better for you, or maybe you use Restream or a different tool and go live to multiple sources. So
I just started using Restream. Cool. And again, it's kind of in that realm of, oh God, I need this. Does this exist? Can I do this to multiple channels? Because here's what would happen. I had made a very clear choice. I had started the spinoff of using the Ecamm. Like, once Ecamm was so reliably set to go live, I said, okay, I'm going to spin off from Verbal Tap and on a weekly show.
Sure.
And nobody calls these winners the minute after they win. And I want them to get used to getting a call from me or a text or a note that says, come on my show. And so they win. And now some of the guys are getting excited. They're like, oh, I was waiting for you to call.
You're like, I won. I can be on the show.
Exactly. And I think to myself, I go, you know what? That's what I want. I want them to feel like that what they do is important. And I want them to get excited to be interviewed. And I want to have a good series or...
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sure, yeah.
The video afterwards, or take the video from this afterwards, spend the time putting it on my Final Cut.
Sure.
Then upload that to YouTube. After editing it, it was such a pain.
Yeah.
And now that I use the Restream with it, now I can go to multiple channels at once And it made me really happy because I didn't want to make a Sophie's Choice. I didn't want to go between YouTube and Facebook. I was like, hey, I just want you guys here, and I don't care where you watch it. Just watch it.
Yeah.
And, you know, it allows me a way, way more diverse marketing approach just to save time. And honestly, that time is money. I had one fan being like, hey, are these interviews going to go up on iTunes? And I was like, yes, I'm so tired. And they go, what do you mean? I go, this is how long each episode takes or each interview takes to strip and put it up on top of my other jobs.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, whoa, I'm sorry, dude. No, get it up when you can.
Yeah.
So I would say as of recently, you know, I've done this thing and I've noticed a little bit of movement on my YouTube. But up until now, it's been mostly just concentrate on Facebook, try to get people when they're at their least productive at their jobs. And that's a little trick in itself.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, just trying to figure out, like, when are you tuning out at your job the most? And sometimes it's not even lunch. People like actually take their time to enjoy their lunch. Sometimes it's right after lunch. Sometimes it's the end of the day. So what I try to do is try to do my best to work around some of these athletes' schedules, which are insane. But then I say, okay, well, what's the best time we could possibly catch somebody coming back from their lunch break or from work or getting home? And we're still testing out those times, but I'm finding like just the ability to say, choose your own adventure. Do you want it off of Twitter? Do you want it off of YouTube?
Yep.
And the nice part about YouTube is you can go back and stream it from wherever you want it.
Yep.
And that's something that Facebook doesn't have per se. But Facebook is all about did you just have that guest on? It was like, yeah, where were you? I marketed it. I put it up. I told people. It's your fault.
Awesome. I think that we're at the end of our questions. Is there anything else that you wanted to say, anything that you wanted to promote? I know we'll share link to your website and to your social channels below and answer any questions that have come up. But if there's anything else that you're actively doing or want to share with people, now's your chance.
Absolutely. Oh, believe me, I got plenty.
Hit us with it.
I just, the nicest part about it is, I guess the thing I would like to kind of really, really make an emphasis on is, you know, to everybody who watches, who's my normal set of folks who come in and tune in, thank you guys very much. You guys really, really make the show pop. You make it so, like I said, we can get to, we can hopefully get on days. And at the very, I always said, I'm like, if it's not going to be somebody else who's going to be on ESPN talk grappling, so I really just putting the foundation. It'd be way nicer if it's, not gonna lie, I want somebody else. I've done most of the work, but I feel like the best part about these shows and these is that opportunity to meet somebody. And so, back in 7 years ago, when I was in a comedy club, and I was told by one of the producers or the of that place that they want a 50% revenue from.
Wow.
Said 50% is zero. Unless you're good at it and make it for me, I'm just going to do it myself. And it meant taking what I was doing at the time to wait for the to catch up. Now that the technology is catch up, it's like every little advance I feel you guys are putting together is something that I thinking like that's dope. So I just want to say thank you guys for making this an actual thing that works.
Of course.
And that we can actually use and as a great streaming service. And I would just like to say, if you guys like what you see here, go check us out at Grappling Hour. You can catch it at grapplinghour.com. You can see us at Verbal Tap, verbaltapcast.com, and on IG for both of those, and Twitter, YouTube, on all of the channels. You see me interviewing people or commentating or running around and training with the athletes. You can actually watch me get beat up a little bit by them too. we film those segments as well.
Awesome.
And then we look forward back early late night, I think at some point in the future. I think one of the benefits of this technology is I now love the fact that you can take this on the go and you can put it on a different computer.
Yep.
Before, this is my desktop, and I can't bring desktop to a bar. You know, like that's going to look kind of tacky. But now that you guys log in with a service, you're paying a monthly fee. You can take that on the go.
Yeah.
I think game changing, and so I really want those kind of Anthony Bourdain kind of, you're at a bar and you get to talk grappling with people. And for years I had pitched a segment saying I really want to interview two guys after they finish fighting. It doesn't have to be immediately after, but I really want to interview the two guys after they finish fighting, like at a dinner or over beers or whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
And just saying, like, tell me about what it was to face each other, because again, it would motivate and it would do something that nobody else has done. So it's stuff like that I keep thinking, like, all right, the future looks good. So, but again, yeah, checking us out, grapplinghour.com, verbaltapcast.com, and all the other stuff. And if you ever just get lost, you can find rafesparza.com. That's my main thing. So you can see a little bit of my comedy stuff and my writing there as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Raf, and thanks for everyone that tuned in. We do Meet the Pros every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, so if you have an interest in being interviewed or you want to learn more about it, you can post a message in the comments below, or you can send us a DM. We're happy to follow up and give you more info on it. If you are sitting here watching and you haven't tried Ecamm Live yet, we have a free trial, ecamm.live. You can download it, give it a try, let us know what you think. You can certainly always join our Facebook community as well. The Ecamm Live community is right off of our Facebook page, so click on groups and join, find out what everyone's talking about. Thanks, hope you have a great day.